Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Before you even let your brain go to that smooth, soulful place, just hit the pause button on the mental record player.
I know exactly where you're going with this. You see the name Al Green on the research packet, and immediately you're hearing, let's stay together.
You're picturing the Reverend in a silk suit.
Of course.
Exactly. And I need everyone listening to take that image, crumble it up, and just toss it. Because the Al Green we are deep diving into today, he wasn't singing about love and happiness.
Not even close.
We're talking about a 6'4", 280-pound behemoth who spent 20 years throwing people around a wrestling ring.
And getting thrown around himself. Quite a bit, actually.
We are talking about Alfred Dobalo, better known to the wrestling world as the Dog, Rage, Blade, and yeah, Al Green.
This is actually one of my favorite kinds of deep dives. Because, usually we talk wrestling history, everyone wants to talk about the icons, the Hogans, the Rocks.
Yeah, that's on the martini.
Right. We obsess over them. But today, we're looking at something, arguably more important to the industry itself. We're looking at a perfect case study of the journeyman.
The journeyman. It sounds like a character class in a video game or something, but in wrestling, it's a very specific, very gritty role, isn't it?
Yes. Think of the journeyman as, like, the essential worker of the wrestling ecosystem. They're the guys who travel the globe, they change their names and their gimmicks at the drop of a hat. Their job isn't always to win.
It's to make the whole show function.
Precisely. They are the mortar between the bricks.
Right.
And Al Green, he lived that life from 1989 all the way until his passing in 2013.
And looking at these records, what a chaotic life it was. The source material here is basically a travelogue of the highest highs and the absolute weirdest lows of the business.
The lows get really low.
Yeah. We're talking about a guy who tagged with one of the biggest stars in history right before that guy got famous. And then, 10 years later, he was doing a gimmick involving a toilet?
We are definitely going to have to unpack the toilet situation. Yeah. Well, it's a lot. Yeah. But you're right. It's a career of just constant reinvention. It's a survival story.
So let's get into it. Let's rewind to 1989. WCW World Championship Wrestling is the big alternative to the WWF.
The Turner era. And Al Green enters the scene. He's trained by Steve Kern, who is a legend in his own right, famously part of the Fabulous Ones. So Green has a solid pedigree.
And physically, the guy is a house. 6'4", 280. In any other sport, you walk in looking like that, you're an instant star.
But wrestling has a pecking order.
It sure does. I was looking at his debut records, and it's brutal. June 15th, 1989, first major TV taping. And who do they feed him to?
Sting?
The Sting. Face paint, screaming, the biggest rising star in the company.
It's a classic trial by fire. Al Green is a rookie. He walks out there and he's staring down the WCW television champion. And naturally, Green gets beat.
But he wasn't just losing, right? He was being established as something specific.
Yes, enhancement talent.
Which is the polite term for a jobber.
Well, jobber can be a bit derogatory, but yeah, essentially. His job was to be big and impressive so that when Sting beat him, Sting looked even better. Think about it. If Sting beats a guy who is 5'8", who cares?
Right. But if he body slams a 280-pound monster like Al Green...
the crowd goes wild. Green's value was in his size and his willingness to fall down.
So he's the measuring stick. But that first year, man, he struggled. The notes show him bouncing between partners constantly. He teams with Ron Simmons for a minute.
Damn, Ron Simmons, yes.
Yeah.
But this was way before he was a world champion. They were just two big athletic guys trying to make it work. It was very much a throw them against the wall and see if they stick phase.
And he teams with a guy named Lee Scott. And this is where I actually laughed reading the match results. They were losing to a team called the Ding Dongs. Please tell me they aren't what I think they are.
Oh, they are exactly what you think they are.
Yeah.
It was a tag team, covered in bells.
No, bells. Like legit jingle bells.
Bells on their ankles, bells on their wrists. The idea was that they would ring every time they moved. It was a disaster of a gimmick. But here is the harsh reality for Al Green. If you are losing to the ding-dongs, you are at the absolute bottom of the card.
That's got to be tough on the ego.
It's the business.
Yeah.
You take the paycheck, you drive to the next town.
So he's struggling. He teams with Bill Irwin, gets a win here and there, but then September 1990 hits, and this is the first major pivot. The sources call this his first real break.
Right. WCW had a team called the Master Blasters.
Great name. Very 1990. Sounds like a boombox.
Very. They were modeled after the Road Warriors, face paint, big muscles, spikes. But one of the original members, a guy named Iron, quit after one match. So WCW is stuck. They need a partner.
Enter Al Green, but he's not Al Green anymore. He gets a makeover. He is now Blade.
Blade. And his partner is named Steel.
And this is the part that blew my mind. I had to double-check the photos. Who is Steel?
Steel is a very young, very tall guy who would go on to become one of the most famous wrestlers on the planet. Kevin Nash?
Kevin Nash. Diesel. Founder of the NWO, the guy who changed the business.
The very same. Before he was Big Daddy Cool, he was Steel. And our journeyman Al Green was his partner, Blade.
That is such a sliding doors moment. You have Al Green and Kevin Nash side by side, effectively equals, and apparently they were crushing it.
They were. This is what we call a monster push. October 1990, they go on an undefeated streak. They get a match at Halloween Havoc, a huge pay-per-view. They beat the Southern Boys. For a moment, Al Green isn't a journeyman. He's a contender.
It's amazing how fast the air goes out of the balloon, though. They're undefeated, they're scary, and then they hit a wall.
That wall was named Tom Zank and Brian Pillman.
Flying Brian Pillman.
A legend. November 22nd, Zank and Pillman hand the Master Blasters their first loss. Pillman pins Blade, our guy Al Green. And in wrestling psychology, for monsters who rely on intimidation, that first loss is devastating. The aura just evaporates.
It's like when the bad guy in a movie finally gets punched in the face.
Exactly. The Office, the Bookers, they lost faith. The Master Blasters got a shot at the U.S. Tag Team titles against the Steiner Brothers around Christmas.
And the Steiners were absolute beasts.
The gold standard for stiff working. They hit hard, the Steiners beat them, but the real end, the moment they killed the team, happened on TV February 2, 1991.
I saw this in the notes, the 52-second burial.
Yeah, it's the only way to describe it. They had a rematch against the Steiners, and they were decimated. It lasted 52 seconds.
Less than a minute.
Less than a minute. Rick and Scott Steiner just threw them around. That wasn't just a match. That was a corporate memo sent via suplex. That was the Office saying, we are done with this.
Oof. And that's where the paths diverge. Kevin Nash stays in WCW, becomes Oz, Vinny Vegas, then a megastar, Al Green.
Al Green leaves. He goes back to the grind.
He heads to the independent circuit, Florida Championship Wrestling, the IWF. He needs a new partner, a new vibe.
And he finds both. He starts teaming with the Terminator, who later changes his name to Fury. So, naturally, Blade reinvents himself. He's not Blade anymore. Now he is Rage.
Rage and Fury. The Wrecking Crew. I gotta say, I love the simplicity of 90s wrestling names.
It's effective marketing. And it worked. They win gold in the RWF, and they look dominant enough that WCW calls them back in 1993.
So Rage and Fury are back in the big leagues, but they aren't getting the same undefeated treatment, are they?
No. By 1993, their role had shifted. They were established as monster heels, bad guys. But their function was to be the gatekeepers.
Define gatekeepers in this context.
A gatekeeper is the test. If you're a young, rising star like, say, Too Cold Scorpio or Marcus Alexander Bagwell, you have to beat the Wrecking Crew to prove you're ready for the main event.
So they would beat the lower card guys to keep their credibility.
But when it came to the hot new acts, their job was to lose. It's classic contrast. The Wrecking Crew is big and scary. The good guys are fast and pretty. When the pretty guys beat the scary guys, the fans go crazy.
But there's one feud here that made me chuckle. The Cole twins.
Ah, Keith and Kent Cole.
Identical twins. And the Wrecking Crew feuded with them for months.
It's one of the oldest tropes in the book. The big, mean brawlers versus the smaller, faster, identical twins. And you know the drill. The twins probably used twin magic to switch places.
And eventually that WCW run fizzles out too. But being a journeyman means the journey continues, literally. We're going international.
A huge part of the career of a guy like Green. If the U.S. runs dry, you go to Europe or Japan. In 1994, the Wrecking Crew heads to the CWA, the Catch Wrestling Association in Europe.
And there's a really somber detail in the notes here. They win the CWA tag team titles, but the context is tragic.
It is very dark. They won the titles in a tournament. But the reason the titles were vacant was that the previous champion, a wrestler named Larry Cameron, had actually died in the ring during a match.
God, that really puts it all in perspective.
It's a stark reminder of the physical toll. Green and Fury win the belts in the shadow of that. They only held them for about 3 weeks. It was a short reign, but it shows Green was trusted to carry the company during a crisis. He was a safe pair of hands.
And from Europe, they head to Japan. Summer of 1995, All Japan Pro Wrestling.
AJPW in the 90s is the holy grail for purists. Hard-hitting, serious. The Wrecking Crew toured there, and again, look at their role. They're beating the rookies, but when they face the top foreign team, Doug Furness and Dan Crawford.
They lose.
They lose. They were there to make the legends look good. It's the same story in a different language.
Which brings us to the late 90s. The Monday Night Wars are heating up, and Al Green finds his way back to WCW one more time.
But this time, he's solo. And honestly, he seems strictly there to fill out the card.
Cannon fodder comes to mind. But there is one specific match in August 1998 that stands out. Monday Nitro. Al Green versus Goldberg.
Goldberg was the man in 1998. If you were wrestling him, you were getting speared and jackhammered in 3 minutes flat. It was a ritual.
But the meta moment here is fantastic. Kevin Nash Green's old partner was on guest commentary.
He was. And Nash, being one of the smartest guys in the business, actually referenced it.
Yeah.
He acknowledged Green was his former partner, and then, because he's Kevin Nash, he made a joke connecting him to this soul singer.
Of course he did, but it's kind of a full circle moment. Nash is at the announce table making millions. Green is in the ring taking the spear.
But the circle wasn't closed yet. We have to talk about the year 2000.
Oh boy. The year 2000 in WCW, the Russo era, notorious for being chaotic and just desperate.
All of the above. The company is sinking, bleeding money, and trying anything to stay afloat.
And in this chaos, Al Green gets repackaged. He is no longer Blade, no longer Rage. He is the dog.
The dog.
Okay, explain this. Was he a cool dog, like the big dog?
No. He was a human acting like a dog.
Yeah.
He formed a hardcore tag team with Brian Knobbs from the Nasty Boys. The story is he was a last-minute replacement for Sabu, so they needed a body. They threw Al Green in there, gave him a spiked collar, and called him the dog.
And the behavior. The notes mention degrading.
That's the only word for it. He would bark. He would act like an attack dog. And yes, as you teased, there were spots where he would literally drink out of a toilet.
What? I mean, was he that desperate for work?
That's the question. But you have to view it through the lens of a journeyman. It's a paycheck. The writers come up with a gimmick, no matter how stupid, and you do it or you go home. Al Green was a pro. He went out there and did the job.
It feels like a humiliation ritual.
It might have been. He only secured 5 victories in that whole run. Mostly he was just there to get hit with trash cans and act like a canine.
Man, from teaming with Kevin Nash to drinking out of a toilet, that is a rough ride.
It was the dying days of WCW. Soon after, the WWF bought the company in 2001.
And I'm guessing Al Green wasn't on the must-keep list.
His contract wasn't picked up. And that was pretty much the end of his full-time career.
He didn't disappear completely, though. He popped up in a few places.
A little bit. A masked gig in a promotion called WXO. A match in 2007 against Abdullah the Butcher.
And reality TV, strangely enough.
Right. Hogan Knows best. He lived in Florida. He was part of that extended Hulk Hogan circle. You see him in the background. Just another reminder he was always around the business, even if he wasn't in the spotlight.
So we come to the end. Al Green passed away on June 14th, 2013. He was only 57.
COPD. It had been affecting him for a while. 57 is far too young, but sadly not uncommon for wrestlers of that generation.
When you look back at it all, the rookie, Blade, Rage, the dog, what do you see? He's not a Hall of Famer. No one is wearing an Al Green t-shirt.
No, they aren't. But if you zoom out, you see a masterclass in adaptability. He played every single role the industry asked of him. Be a monster. Okay, tag with this rookie. Sure. Put over the young guys. Done. Act like a dog. Fine.
He kept the machine running.
Exactly. He worked for the biggest companies in the world. He shared the ring with Sting, Nash, Goldberg, Hogan. You don't get to do that for 20 years if you aren't dependable and professional.
It's the difference between the guys on the poster and the guys who make the poster possible.
And that leads me to the big thought I want to leave you with. When we write history, we obsess over the Steels, the Kevin Nashes who become icons. But think about how different history would look without the Blades, without the Al Greens who stayed behind, who took the losses, who made the stars look like stars.
You can't have a hero without a villain. You can't have a winner without someone willing to lose.
Precisely. The Al Greens of the world are the mortar that holds the bricks together.
Yeah.
You might not look at the mortar, but without it, the whole wall falls down.
Well said. So next time you see a highlight reel of Goldberg spearing someone, take a second to look at the guy taking the hit. It might just be Al Green doing his job.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
See you next time.